All right, welcome Edupedia World students. Here we are with the Introduction to Marketing, Module 6, the penultimate module. And I'm just going to tell you this is probably I'm going to throw it all out there. This is the most exciting aspect of any sort of marketing to me, because in this module we're going to talk about the vitally important areas of creativity and innovation. And if you can incorporate a consistent practice of creating your products, services, programs with deliberate innovation in mind, this is the word, deliberate innovation in mind, your business will flourish. And yes, without trying to sound sort of too despondent over it, if you don't, this is where businesses just remain still, and dare I say it, they fold as well. So you must learn how to incorporate a consistent practice of creating, inventing product, services, programs with deliberate innovation in mind. Your business will flourish, and the beautiful thing about this module is that I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. So in addition, this lesson also covers the difference between creativity and innovation. Some people sort of look at them both as one and the same. They are not. They are clearly different. Why you need to be always thinking ahead, how to know which products, services, programs to create, the best ways to serve your marketing, and then choosing the right tools and technology for the innovation. So in this actual module, what we're going to do is we've got to go back a little bit. Okay, so we're going all the way back to module 1 and some of the sort of key principles and people that have influenced me and the way I like to market and the way I certainly would like you to market as well. And we go back to the purpose of your business. And Mr. Drucker, Peter Drucker, whose views and opinion and writings were big enough in the likes of Business Week, Forbes magazine, the Harvard Business Review. Okay, and what Mr. Drucker said again was the purpose of the business is to create and keep a customer. Now you're going to really have to bear with me on this, because we're just going to lay that foundation once again before we move over to creativity and innovation. Okay, so the purpose of the business is to create and keep a customer. Now the next step was the purpose and functions of your business. Okay, so the purpose of a business was to create and keep a customer, and then Mr. Drucker also said a business enterprise has two basic functions, and they are marketing and innovation. Okay, so the purpose of the business is to create and keep a customer. The functions of your business have two basic functions, marketing and innovation. And where Mr. Drucker sort of reasoned here was that he felt that everything else was a cost. All right, everything else was a cost. So when we take half a step back then and we were summarizing, we said marketing and innovations. With marketing, we were talking about you want to create the best information package or communication methods to communicate results, benefits, solutions, answers, transformation, relief, and outcomes. And then in module 1, we were saying find out what people want and need. This was the takeaway. This was the one main thing relative to marketing that I wanted you to have. I wanted you to find out what people want and need, give them what they want and need, okay? And then frequently and consistently communicate how what you provide not only addresses those wants and needs, but also solves them. And then when you get to the sort of pro level of marketing, as part of the marketing, you actually want to paint a picture of their lives, their business, what solution they need, their body, or you need to say, right, after you've done this course, after you've taken this training, after you've gone on this diet, this is how you'll feel. You'll feel great, you'll feel invigorated, your husband won't be able to take his hands off you, or so on and so forth. You paint that picture, okay, and that's really big on the marketing side. And now we move over to the innovation side of things. Okay, so the two functions are marketing, we've got that, we've understood that. Now we move over to innovation. So I guess the real big thing is, what is innovation? What is innovation? So as I've mentioned to you before, we often see these two sort of together, creativity and innovation. And the big question is, what is the difference? What's the difference between creativity and innovation? Well, creativity is thinking up new things. All right, you're literally just thinking up new things. You're in your mind. You're bringing them up. You're linking things together, which is vitally important. And then innovation is doing new things. Okay, so creativity is thinking up new things, and innovation is doing new things. This is one of the things that has been sort of used to differentiate between creativity versus innovation. But we're going to go a lot deeper in this because it is indeed a lot deeper. So when we're looking towards creativity, right, that includes your sitting, your thinking of new things, creation of an idea or a method, the invention of something new, the development of a theory, the conceptualization of something. Okay, these all sort of come under the heading of creativity. But there's an issue that you've got to be very careful of, okay? Because beware of creativity alone. Right? You see a road there, and you see where it's leading to. And what I mean by that is, if you just spend all your time thinking of new things, or even creating an idea or method, or you're doing something new, or developing a theory, or conceptualizing something, if that's all you do, you are going to reach a wall, a dead end. You will not be able to do anything else. Now, the reason for that is there will be too much thinking of new ideas, too many ideas and methods, too much time inventing things, too many theories, too much conceptualization, all of the above, too much of that without one key, vitally important thing. And do you know what that is? That thing is commercialization. All right? So, what I'm trying to say is that if you're thinking of new things, you're thinking of ideas and methods, you're putting them together, you're inventing things, you're coming up with theories and some great concepts, but if you're doing that without commercializing it, that is the big danger. Now, when we talk about commercialization, what is the key one word that I'd like you to really focus on? It's value. Value, 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 value. It's value. Value, 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 value. Now, I am not going to apologize for consistently saying that word, value, 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 because this is what you've really got to understand. Simply stated, when we talk about innovation, we're saying finding new and better ways to serve your customers where they, not you, they can see, appreciate, and benefit from the value and the new products and services you create. So the end user is the one who looks at something, receives something, is taught something via your innovative ways, and they appreciate what? The value. The creativity journey is a must. You must think of new things. You must create ideas and methods. If you can, you should invent. Later on, I'll talk to you a little bit about where it's kind of important to let others often invent. But then you develop a theory and the process of conceptualization. These are all very, very important. But in addition to that other word that I'm going to say many, many times, you're going to see this definition a lot. You must find new and better ways to serve your customers where they can see, appreciate, and benefit from the value. All right? And in addition to that, you're doing it deliberately. All right, you're actually setting out to say, let me put something together where the end user is the one that benefits. And here is that word again, value. Value, 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 value. So when I often talk about innovation, and I've even mentioned it here when I said, we're going to sort of focus on some of the tools and the technology, this is what you've got to be very, very careful of. The bright, shiny objects. Bright, shiny objects, does not necessarily translate to innovation. And what you want to say to yourself is, if you are going to, indulge in, different forms of media and different gadgets and different software, is you're asking yourself, how can these platforms provide value to those I wish to serve? And what I want to talk about, as part of this is a guru case study, and I've deliberately left sort of it silhouetted because it's not here to call anybody out. But, a good number of years ago, maybe 8 years ago possibly, there was somebody who I had spent a considerable amount of money learning and studying from. And I remember there is an annual conference, a live conference that this particular teacher has. And he was going to have a number of guest speakers, as he always does, and he has terrific quality speakers. And I remember actually sitting on a tele-seminar that was promoting this event, and I was there from start to finish. I listened to it all, but I was just scrambling to get all the information. It was a really, really great standalone chat they were having. I was writing notes. I didn't have enough. And I remember afterwards actually approaching and reaching out to the support team here for the Guru, and I said to him, look, this was great. Is there any chance I can get a recording of that? And what it came back was, look, he says, if you want to hear more of this person, come to the conference. And I think for 3 years running, I had spent a decent amount of money with this teacher. And I just felt that, at the time, I didn't believe he was being necessarily cheap or awkward. I just don't think he had the sort of kit in place in order to pass like an audio recording. That's just not his platform. The way he does it, he goes through sort of webinars and teleseminars, and then he has a course, but very little of his teaching and his promotion is repurposed. So the answer came back saying, sorry, we can't help. And if you'd like to hear more, come to the conference. And I just felt that at the time, because of the way I like to learn, I'll put an MP3 onto the phone. At that time it was an iPod. I'll walk, I'll jog, I'll do something. I listen. That's how I learn. So I actually stopped, and this is where the innovation, or lack of it rather, got in the way, because there was no value that I was able to receive in our association. Now the flip side of it is, here is a fantastic teacher, a very, very sharp marketing, advertising, copywriting brain. His name is Drayton Bird, and the father of advertising, modern advertising, David Ogilvy, once said that Drayton Bird knows more about direct marketing than anyone in the world. Now I'm a student of Drayton, and as you can actually see, here's one of his lessons, but you can see those 2 red arrows there. That allows you to download the video. That allows you to download the audio, so you can listen to this on the go. You can download it. You don't actually have to be online. And the reason why I wanted to sort of show that was that was a great example where Drayton has been able to pass on this value to me. I appreciate that. This is enough for me to invest in. Whereas with this gentleman here, I haven't spent a penny with him since. So as we move over to Innovation 101, it's really important in this teaching that you begin to get an understanding of what it is, and more importantly, see examples of it so you can apply it to your own offering. And once again, we're talking about finding ways. How do you find new and better ways to serve your customers where they can see, appreciate, and benefit from the value and the new products and services you create? So the key question, I suppose, is how? How do you innovate? How do you innovate? Well, we actually saw with the mystery guru his strategy where it didn't work at all well. Okay, whereas with Drayton Bird it worked very, very well. And Drayton with his strategy was very much along the lines. Now he has so many different marketing words and teachings of wisdom, but one of them that he's mentioned many times is find out what people want and need and give it to them. And he is totally correct about that. However, sometimes where that line of find out what people want and need and give it to them might be a little bit misunderstood is we're not necessarily saying give them exactly what they tell you they want, because sometimes they just don't know. Now, I'm not sure how many of you know who this man is, alright? But what I'm going to say here is, do you automatically give people what they say they want? This man didn't. Do you know who he is yet? How about now? You see that old logo, and then that more recent, and then here we go. It is the Ford Motor Company. This gentleman is Henry Ford, okay? And he is famous for the quote that if I asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. And I thought that was absolutely terrific. So this is where we say that although we do want to find out what people want and need and give it to them, don't necessarily always look at the exact like for like what they're saying that they want. Because as Mr. Ford said, if that was the case, they would have said, we just want a horse that goes faster. All right. And as we know, Mr. Ford came up with a masterful solution, and it was the Model T touring car, right? Now, when we begin to look and move forward on this, you see that both creativity and innovation are a must for any business. And with Mr. Ford, it was thinking up new things, all right, and then it was doing new things, all right. So the creative process for Mr. Ford was he thought of new things, created an idea or method. There was certain amount of invention taking place. He developed a theory about it. He conceptualized it, so therefore he interpreted it in his own mind. He was able to say, okay, what are we doing with this car? You know, how do we want to sort of offer this to people? What's the hook? And then, of course, he commercialized it. That is the key thing. And the Ford commercialization has now become legendary, and they decided to say, you know, it was great for the young businessmen, bringing people together. So get in the car, you can drive, you can see family and friends, and you know, you just have to go online and see some of the original Ford adverts just to know how great they really were, how they really commercialized the aspect of it. They even went out to Africa, okay, with the Ford, and you can see here with the commercialization, they're saying, well, you can sort of ride with the animals, or you can drive one of our cars. And as you see over what they did, sort of continuing with many of these adverts, you saw that they made it incredibly personal. All right, you can see the sort of showing drives in the the mountains, the countryside. All right, and then finally, you know, they really broke it down with that commercialization. They went to great lengths to explain what the car was all about. All right, so the commercialization was vitally important. So when we talk and we look at creativity versus innovation, the sort of broader definition can be creativity is thinking up new things in your mind. You're just sort of sitting there, you're conceptualizing it, and innovation is doing new things. All right, but the value aspect, I just can't sort of stress that enough. It's not about you. It's not about saying, right, we're going to create something great. It's got to be, we've got to create something great with view to the customer being able to see and appreciate and value what we've offered. Now, what I want to really achieve in this particular module is for you to understand innovation principles, because I speak often about the difference between principles, strategies, and tactics. Okay, tactics change all the time. Strategy changes from time to time. Principles never change. And the person who has helped me the most with being able to sort of really look into innovation and understand it and go very deep is this gentleman here. His name is Bill Orlett. He's the author of a fantastic book called Disciplined Entrepreneurship. And when speaking about innovation, what Bill said was, he said, innovation is invention multiplied by commercialization. Okay, innovation is invention multiplied by commercialization. All right, so therefore you've got to have something that has been invented, created, produced. All right, then you need to commercialize it, and only then, only when you have something and then you commercialize it, are you innovating. And there are different types of innovation, okay, but the ones that we're going to sort of focus on here in this particular module, all right, on this occasion, are technology innovation, process innovation, business model innovation, and positioning. Okay, so when we also look at categories of innovation, all right, we've gone through the types of innovation, right, technology, process, business model, and positioning. Now we look at categories of innovation: disruptive, incremental, and lateral. Now, The types, we're going to show you some examples in a moment. The categories I'd like to talk to you a bit about. Disruptive is literally just as it sounds, and those of you in Great Britain and Ireland who might familiar, there's a betting company, I'm not going to mention their name, but they're known for their quite disruptive, innovative advertising and marketing. They've decided to they are very much the new kids on the block, and they just go and they disrupt things in the manner in which they do it. Incremental is gradual innovation. That's probably more common in most places than not, where an organization, just as they grow, they innovate. And the next is lateral. You're actually taking something that has worked in another area, in another field, in another industry, and almost like for like, you just bring it into another direction. So when we look at technology innovation, I think it's safe to say that this is a logo and a company and an organization that everybody is familiar with, okay? Apple. And of course, this man, sadly no longer with us, Steve Jobs, is known as the real brains behind that, along with Steve Wozniak, of course. So it was Jobs and Woz who really back in the day worked very hard to bring and introduce the Apple Mac to the world. But this is an interesting thing here, because, and stay with me on this lesson, stay with me with this whole process that I'm talking about, because one of the big issues that I often hear from people is they say, well, we don't know what to innovate, we don't know what to do. And you know what? You don't have to think that up, because you see, one of the real key things that Steve's Woz and Jobs started with was the Windows icons menus pointer. Okay, and this was developed at Xerox PARC. All right, so it wasn't even done by these guys. All right, now this isn't the greatest image. I frantically looked around, but as you can see, it's not too dissimilar to any of the PCs that we see now, where you can see a point and click and a mouse, and you're able to have a look here. All right, but this is the interesting thing. Okay, so you see, WIMP Interaction was developed at Xerox PARC. All right, in 1973, and popularized with Apple's introduction of the Macintosh in 1984, which added the concepts of the menu bar and extended window management. All right, so what we're saying in effect is that as much kudos as these guys get for what they did with the Apple Mac, it didn't actually start with them. All right, it was great, it was done, but my word, what they were able to do was commercialize it. I don't believe anybody came even close to the way these guys were able to commercialize what already existed. Okay, and indeed, they're famous now. If you go onto YouTube and you see it, their 1984 Super Bowl commercial, all right, where they pretty much launched the Apple Macintosh. Beyond bringing in Ridley Scott to direct it and buying big space for the Super Bowl ads and so on and so forth, what they explained was actually what the Apple Mac would do. It would give them an opportunity, it would give those users an opportunity to be able to be more creative and use it and not be stifled by some of the software that was currently out there. All right. So when we also look at another technology case study, you can see again another Apple iconic product, the Apple iPod Shuffle, the Nano, the Classic, and the Touch. And of course, without this, without the MP3, it would have been impossible to actually have the iPod. All right. But once again, it wasn't Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak and everybody else who created the MP3. No, it was done at this fantastic place, which was called the Fraunhofer Institute out in Germany. And you can see it here. The MP3 compression algorithm was invented and patented. All right, so it wasn't from the fellas at Apple, but my goodness, once Mr. Commercialization got his hands on it, he was able to articulate that. He was able to explain the value to other people. So when we begin to talk about innovation, and if you remember that previous definition was its invention multiplied by commercialization, that's what happened. and we look at these fellas, the Google guys. Unbelievable story and what they've done, particularly with Google AdWords, an ability where somebody can put in a search term and you pay for the clicks to be somewhere at the top of the search engines, okay? But it wasn't Serge and Larry who originally invented this. This gentleman here is called Bill Gross, okay? And he had something called Idea Lab. Now, Idea Lab morphed into GoTo.com. This was the first sort of bit of pay-per-click advertising back in the day. Then GoTo.com moved over and became Overture. Overture was acquired by Yahoo, all right? And then it became Yahoo Search Marketing. And this was way before these guys at Stanford turned around and began to say, hey, hold on a minute, there's an opportunity here. But as Bill had sort of said, innovation is invention multiplied by commercialization. And what these guys were able to do, they were able to commercialize it. Now, I want to make something very, very clear in this module. Not for one moment are we saying that they've taken something that's already there and they've just gone it and repackaged it and done that. No. This is where a lot of the sort of creativity comes in place, because they begin to say, well, hold on a minute, there's something already here. They're doing something, but is there something else we can do? Is there something we can turn it around in a way that provides value, more value? Okay, and this is what they did, and the rest is history. And interestingly enough, I mean, when you're thinking of pay-per-click advertising and search, you very rarely think and say, oh, I'll Yahoo it. It's always, oh, let me Google it. Okay, so this is what happens. Innovation is invention multiplied by commercialization. And then there's innovation via positioning, and this gentleman here is somebody who I know very, very well. I feel privileged to work closely alongside him. His name is David Rothwell, and few people in the world, right? This is a bold statement. Few people in the world know more about Google AdWords than David Rothwell. But in a positioning standpoint, what he decided to do was he really went after the e-commerce. This is what he was doing. His model was very much one. He actually is so confident in his ability with AdWords is that, he has commission-only contracts with people, or commission-only management services where, he doesn't take an upfront management fee. He only earns when his client actually earn. So of course he really rolled into there on a positioning standpoint, and as you can see, he even now has written the book on AdWords for e-commerce. So this is the positioning. This is innovation by a positioning. He's turned around and said, I am the AdWords for e-commerce guy. So the key takeaway here that I want you to really understand is I guess it's twofold. There's two slides here. Number one is creativity is the thinking up new things, right? Not necessarily the invention, all right? It's the thinking up of new things that are already there, and then the innovation is doing the new things. It's the commercialization. Innovation is invention multiplied by commercialization. And I showed the modern day innovators, but when we look at the gentleman, Mr. Ford himself, this is what he said: I invented nothing new. I simply assembled the discoveries of other men behind whom were centuries of work. Progress happens when all the factors that made for it are ready, and then it is inevitable. I invented nothing new. And thoughts from a modern day Mr. Ford, and I don't mean to do Sir Richard a misservice here at all, but what I'm just trying to say is that, rather than you turn around and you say, oh yeah, well that was back then, this is how someone was thinking here, but look what he says. He says, strike the right balance between respecting your rivals and focusing on how you can beat them. This is Sir Richard Branson. So once you've got an element of respect for what other people are doing, that's the time to get creative. You look and you say, hey, look, I actually like what they're doing. This is what the Google guys did. This is what Henry Ford did, the commercialization. Look at this, the car that has no competition. Steve Jobs, got something that was already out there, just began to look there. So there was the respect for what had already been put together, but then the commercialization took it to an absolute another level. And this is what the Google guys did as well. Same with David Rothwell. Other people have been writing books on AdWords and doing well. He found his angle and he's decided to do it in such a way where it passes on value to the person receiving it. And I don't know about you, but if you went to any business and you said to a business, look, I will run your ad campaigns for you. If you sell, you pay me. If you don't sell, you do not pay me. If that's not an innovative way and then gives you a way to really commercialize, then show me one that is. Now, on the innovation tools and technology, as you can see, we are looking at a blank slide. And the reason we're looking at the blank slide is that I don't want you to get too hung up. I don't want you to think that in order to innovate, you need all these design and technology toys. Or as Dan Kennedy likes to say, the shiny object syndrome. You need to avoid that, okay? The tools will come. You will realize that. But the first thing that you need to do is you need to remember the innovation formula. Innovation is invention multiplied by commercialization. Find something that's already been put together. All right, then begin to create in your mind, connect a few of the dots, see where you can make a difference, all right, and then commercialize it, but always done in such a way where the value is seen by the end user. All right, so creativity is the thinking up of the new things, the innovation is the doing. You must do it, but do not forget that the value needs to be received by the end user. So here is the exercise for this module. Okay, I want you to choose one of the innovation types from technology, process, business model, and positioning. So technology, your business, what does that involve? Do you have some technology that you can innovate with? Is it some software? And don't forget, sometimes that can just be a form. I remember working with a travel company, a coach travel company, and they had a booking system online, just where people could go in and put all their details on there. That could qualify. Process, is there something that you can do when somebody has ordered something online, right? Can you send them a text message or something? Is there a way that you can do something where they appreciate, yes, we've got the order, we'll be there in 15 minutes. The business model, I showed you how Google were doing it, or David Rothwell even, where he's saying, look, if I don't get a result for you, you don't pay me. And then the positioning, still with David, he's decided to position himself as the AdWords for e-commerce guy. All right? And then pick one of the categories. Disruptive. Do you just want to sort of go out there and say, hey, forget what everyone else is doing. This is what we do. Does it need to be a little bit more incremental? Are you growing enough now, step by step, where you think, okay, let's take another step forward and innovate in a certain way? Or lateral? Is there someone that is just doing something in another industry that you can literally just grab and move it over to your own? So then what I want you to do is combine them to produce something you will implement in your business over the next 3 months. So once again, let's just say that there is some technology. Let's say there's form. Okay, let's just say there's a form, and as you begin to get some clients that sign up, that buy something from you, you can send them a link to a web page perhaps, and you can say, look, please put your details in there. All right, that's a technology style of innovation, right? And incremental. You're making it gradual. As you begin to get more customers, you begin to put some systems in place that make their experience after the sales a little bit more pleasurable, okay? Or for example, you could get somebody, when someone has bought something, an email goes to somebody in your staff or yourself, and you can pick up the phone and you can call them. All right, it doesn't have to be overly technical, but what you want to do is you've got to just see how you can combine some of these things together, the innovation types and the innovation categories. Combine them, and then every 3 months, and this is where, when we go back to what Mr. Drucker said about marketing and innovation, this is where you've got to be spending time marketing and innovating, looking around. What can I do? How can I change this? How can I make this better? And repeat the process every 3 months. Right, so coming next we have conclusions and final thoughts. It's roundup time, okay? So we will review the 6 previous modules in Module 7. We'll talk about how to make marketing a daily priority. We'll talk about speed of marketing implementation. We'll discuss the failure mindset and why failure may not be on this occasion the kind of automatic failure that we like to associate in business and entrepreneurship. And then finally, the need to pursue marketing mastery. As always, I would love to get some feedback from you on this module. If there's some clarification that you might need, you can connect with me via LinkedIn, Twitter, on my Facebook page, via the blog. If you do go over to the blog, I'll be adding more and more information and teachings and videos over there. And then, as always, there is a lot of video tutorials via the YouTube channel as well. So thank you so much, Edupedia World students, for joining me for Module 6, where we talked about creativity and innovation. Remember, they come hand in hand, but you've got to make sure that the end user is the one that sees the most benefit and value. So thanks a lot for joining me, and I look forward to speaking to you in Module 7.